Hi there. This is Chris Johnson, aka Mr. C Johnson 007 from JumpStart IT Academy. I'm the creator of the Fast Track to IT course where you could go to the JumpStart IT Academy and get skilled in IT over a college degree. Now, I was looking at an interesting article based on one of the consultation calls that I had today. And I was basically going into delving into the topic of fishing or learning how to fish versus eating fish. And don't worry, I'll explain it. People use these analogies all the time. I'll make this make sense to you. So when I talk about learning how to fish at the Fast Track to IT, what I'm doing with this particular course is I'm showing people how to fish in the IT industry. And when I say how to fish, I'm showing people how to basically take control of their career, how to create their own curriculum, how to evaluate the industry, how to understand how people in the industry think, and also how to understand that the IT industry isn't just servers and switches and all these, lights, pretty lights, and all this exciting equipment that we see. Technology, just like any field, is really, I'm an investor. So when we talk about markets, real estate markets, or we talk about the stock market, what my mentor taught me and what I understand is that markets are not basically stocks and bonds and mutual funds. The markets are the people. So when I talk about technology or the technology market, if you will, it's the people. So the Fast Track to IT is going to teach you how the industry works, from the opportunities that are available, and understanding that the cornerstone of operating within the IT industry is understanding the people. You need to understand us. Some people are so busy seeking to run towards a specialization. That's the fish. Okay. Now, once you learn how to fish, you can go get any fish you want because you learn how the industry works. You know how to create your own curriculum. You know how to self-study. You have a method in which you can learn just about anything you need in the industry. So you can basically navigate the industry without a problem. Okay. So when I talk about fishing, Fast Track to IT, which is teaching you how to fish, how to manage your own career, how to create that longevity, and using vision to basically create a path for you in this industry so that you can survive and thrive, right? Now, when you fish, your technology, let's say you get you specialize in some Cisco certifications. Well, Cisco certifications expire every 3 years. So if you paid $5,000, $10,000, you're going to need to pay $10,000 again. Whereas with using my methodology that I learned and the learning method I use, which I teach in the Fast Track to IT, I basically teach people a method of learning wherein I didn't have to pay $5,000 to $10,000 every time I needed to refresh a Cisco certification. All I did was use my learning methodology, go get a book, buy some CDs or videos, and I would look at those videos, go through the course, I buy a simulator, I get some practice exams, and then I would go pass the exam and then go compete for jobs. That's as simple as it was. Now, if you know how to do that, then you could succeed in this industry long term, and you won't have to dig in your pocketbook to do it. You can really do it basically nearly, 10 cents on the dollar, basically. So when I talk about learning how to fish versus fish, I'm saying learning how to manage your career, learning how to learn, learning how the industry works, learning how the people work in the industry, and understanding that even if you specialize in something, I've seen people who specialize in something and they don't succeed because they don't understand the industry or know how to deal with the people in the industry. So getting specialized in IT is good, but that's the fish. So you get to eat some fish for a day. But guess what? You're going to need to re-up. Okay. And if you don't have the money or the skills to re-up, then guess what? You're going to get phased out of this field. In the IT industry, you won't be in it for a long term. You'll survive, you'll make some money, but you won't thrive. At the Fast Track to IT, what I'm doing is I'm teaching people to thrive. Now, with that being said, and we're going into people and we're going into longevity in the IT field, I wanted to go into this article about 4 cornerstone skills engineers need for future of work. Now, if you know me, I'm very futuristic. I'm really into vision and what's going to happen next. And to you, you nerdy types out there, prudence. I'm talking about prudence. I'm talking about, hey, what is the wisest step to take next? And you people who play chess understand this is strategic thinking. Strategic thinking for thriving, not strategic thinking for surviving. Okay, so let's go into this article. The job market has changed a lot in the past decade, and today it's changing faster than ever. With the growing influence of the impending fourth industrial revolution, new disruptive technologies will continue to alter the employment landscape, especially for engineers at the epicenter of the shift. Now, what are they talking about? They're saying that as technology shift, which it always does, but I think what we're seeing now is we're seeing there's a big shift about to take place with technology like artificial intelligence and Internet of Things. A big shift is about to take place, and they're saying now that a big shift is taking place, you're going to need to adjust. Now, if you don't know how to adjust, guess what? You're going to suffer. So I apologize for that delay. I'm a homeschooler, so I'm basically running a private school and doing these videos for you guys. So I hope you enjoy them. So let me get into it. Just like the article is saying, artificial intelligence and machine learning, cloud-based and quantum computing, additive manufacturing and nanofabrication, advanced automation and robotics. These disruptive technologies are already impacting every industry. Although concerns about job loss due to automation are not without merit, these technologies are also poised to open up entire new fields of study and employment never before conceived. Now, I want you to understand something, and this is a nuance, and I want you to get. It says already impacting every industry. Okay, that's pretty much what how IT is. In information technology, there's so much opportunity and every industry uses technology. So as a technology professional, I've literally gone through various industries, at least 5 to 10 industries. And that's the coolest thing about technology is that as a technology professional, I can go into the banking industry or the finance industry. I can go into the education industry. I can go into entertainment industry. I can basically go into the telecommunication industry. There's so many industries that I can go in because everyone's using the same or similar, basically technology. They're using it in a different way to suit their industry, but nonetheless, they're using, information technology to automate their business processes. So let's go into it here. So it says, as many as 7 million jobs across the US could disappear over the next decade. Some people look at that and say, oh no, these jobs are going to be gone. But what I want you to understand is when new technology replaces old technology, it just means there's going to be new opportunities. So you can either have a scarcity mindset or you can have a mindset of abundance. You can think to yourself opportunistically, or you can think to yourself, like I said, with scarcity that, oh no, these jobs are going away, as if nothing's going to replace them. So if automation does replace some of these jobs, someone is going to have to manage the automation. And there's going to be products and services that can be developed from that. So just keep an open mind and understand that if you're flexible and you understand how the IT industry works, then you'll be able to make a significant impact in IT. So it says, according to research by Nick Van Dam, Global Chief Learning Officer at McKinsey Company. Okay, so these positions will be replaced by significantly fewer jobs requiring more highly skilled workers. Hello, that means that there's going to be more opportunity for IT professionals who will basically increase their skill set so that they can take on these jobs or these opportunities. According to one technology funding organization surveyed in a Pew Internet report, the jobs of the future will not need large numbers of workers with a fixed set of skills. Most things that we can train large numbers of workers for, we will also be able to train computers to do better. The already technical positions in engineering related fields are both the most likely to see changes and to continue requiring new candidates within existing and emerging fields. So they have a graph here analyzing work activities rather than occupations is the most accurate way to examine the technical feasibility of automation. So just understand that even if you're in a particular job, that what this article is hinting at is that in the technology field, you need to be have fluidity. What does that mean? That means you need to be flexible. You need to have dexterity. You need to be able to shift and adjust and adapt, because you may be working with a particular technology and then that knowledge be phased away and no longer needed in the marketplace. And if you cannot make yourself basically reliable and relevant, then you won't have any opportunities. I don't want people to get the impression that once I specialize and I have this specialization, then I'm going to make X amount of dollars and that just money is just going to keep flowing in. No, you need to understand the industry. So because when the industry shifts, if you're not shifting and you've specialized in something that's no longer needed, guess what? Your fish is gone. Okay, I told you I would tie it back in. But if you understand how the industry works, then guess what? You're constantly looking at the pond. You're constantly looking at the pond and saying, oh, okay, I see that there's more water over here. There's more fish over here. And you can kind of figure out where you want to fish instead of just, saying, hey, I got this one fish from over there. I'm going to eat it and then I'll come back. Then you come back to the pond, there's no fish. Okay. So what I'm giving you an understanding is you'll know where to find the fish. Okay. That's what the Fast Track to IT is all about. So you'll understand the industry and you can adjust to it. So let's move on. Many of the jobs in 2020 and beyond will be in fields and technologies that didn't exist a decade ago, as anything more than a spark in someone's imagination. Autonomous transportation specialist, technology advocate, augmented reality developer, or human technology integration specialist. These are just a few of the possible future careers that are just beginning to emerge and will be widely available in decades to come. These are people who are basically managing technology that use human-oriented basically attributes. And they're going to essentially ensure that whatever form of hardware is being used to translate or basically emulate the human attributes would be functioning in a manner where it would meet its end goal or its requirements for its end users. So it says, this guy's quoted, "This is the best time for people to have the right skills and right education because there are tremendous opportunities." Now, I want you to listen to that. That means that they're talking about the future. So if they're talking about the future and saying you need to have the right skills and right education, when you say, well, to yourself, well, the future isn't right now. So that means you don't have that right skill and education. So that means you need to understand the industry and where it's going. Wow. See, if you understand the industry and where it's going, then you can constantly put yourself in a position to gain the right skills and education. Because if you have skills in education right now, I mean, it's pretty implicit within this comment. They're talking about the future. You don't have the skills for the future. But if you're constantly keeping your finger on the pulse of technology and the industry and how it's functioning, then guess what? You will be able to move with it. They say that technology is the wave of the future. Well, if you don't get yourself basically a surfboard to be able to ride this wave, then guess what? When the wave comes, it's going to crash. And basically, if you don't have anything to maneuver through these waves, then you're going to get crushed by the technology and you won't be relevant in this field anymore. So if you were somebody who was making six figures working on mainframes, for 20 years, who's using mainframes? I mean, people are still using mainframes. There's different derivatives of mainframes, but I'm just making a point here that they're not as they're not used as much. They're not prolific or prevalent. They're not prevalent. So nobody's using mainframes as much as they did back in the 60s or 70s. So it's also the worst time in history for people with ordinary skills in education. Wow. So these are the people who have fish. All right. These are the people who are like, hey, I specialize in Oracle. I specialize in Cisco. I specialize in Amazon Web Services. I specialize in this. Well, what if the future technology doesn't use that and you've specialized in it and you're not keeping yourself appraised to the technology industry and how it's moving? Then guess what? You're not going to be in the future. At least you're not going to be in the future in the IT industry. So Divine Fielder, researcher or research director at the Institute for the Future, that sounds cool, also predicted as basic automation and machine learning move toward becoming commodities, uniquely human skills will become more valuable. That is very interesting. He's saying that basic automation and machine learning move toward becoming commodities. That means that in the beginning, because everything has a life cycle, in the beginning, this is going to be very novel. People are going to be like, wow, this is awesome. But then it's going to become prevalent. Prevalence, the word I was looking for. And it's going to become prevalent and no one's going to really care because it's just going to be like, hey, give me one of those, because it's going to be like the pile of widgets in the corner. But initially, there's going to be a level of scarcity. So people are going to be like, wow, this is exciting. And I can't believe this. Just think about when microwaves first came out of VCRs. That's the way it was. Like, oh my goodness, can you believe this? And now everybody's like, what? VCR, what is that? The World Economic Forum found there are 10 critical job skills that will be in demand for the future job market of Industry 4.0. Now we're getting into those skills that we were talking about in the beginning. So now, by the way, this is an engineering.com article. I didn't write this article. The credit for who wrote the article is up at the top in the beginning of the video. The top are the 10 critical job skills that will be in demand for the future job market of Industry 4.0 are complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, and people management. Now, where does it say specialization of technology? It doesn't. That's what I'm trying to get people to understand. I'm launching people into IT and I feel calls from all over the world, essentially. And people call me and I tell them, understand how the industry works. Basically, find a way. You need to learn how to create curriculum. You need to learn how IT professionals operate. If you hear my kids in the background, please disregard. This is a professional video. Please disregard it. Okay. Like I said, I have a private school and they're basically, this is the playground for them. So, that's take it for what it was, but it is. But notice that there is no specialization of a technology. These are basically universal principles or skill sets that can basically guide a professional to any position. In other words, I'll sum it up like this. These 4 skills make you useful. And in the IT industry, you want to be useful. How I was talking to a gentleman today who had a bachelor's degree in economics. And I told him, wow, he said, what good is this? I said, look, I'm going to help you understand something. When you're solving complex problems, the biggest thing you need is different lenses to see that problem. And if you can see a technology problem from an economist perspective, then you're going to see the problem from in a different way. I mean, you're essentially, it's just like, you're going to see the problem just in a different way. You're essentially eating the apple from the inside out. It sounds weird, but there's a video called, I think, Freak Economics or something. And it just basically goes into how economists think. And it's just a very creative, inverse way of thinking that I like it. It's an out of box thinking method of thinking. That's really good. In other words, I told this gentleman, this will help you solve complex problems. Okay. So just look at those 4 traits there and A, ask yourself, do I have these traits? B, how do I get these traits? And C, what can I do as with my background with these traits? Okay. So it says, luckily, these skills are essential to being a great engineer. So now is the time to polish them up so that you will be ready for the future of work. Let's go into complex problem solving. Problem solving is the core of engineering. You find the problem, you break it down to understand it, and then apply existing knowledge to create a system, device, or process that solves it. Now, what I would say, this is what I would add to this particular section here, based on in my experience in the IT industry and solving technical problems for over 20 plus years at the highest level. I would say this: when it says find a problem, okay, you can find that problem. It says break it to understand it, okay, and then apply existing knowledge, right? So there's a gap in between break it down and understand it and then apply, right? So that gap is this. Make sure you define the problem. Okay, because I was with an organization and they called me in to solve a problem. I was working on this problem for like 2 or 3 months, and I'm talking to all these different people, just gathering information because it was complex. So it wasn't like I could just come in and analyze diagrams and look at how traffic is flowing and say, there it goes, pinpoint it, that's the root cause. Couldn't do it. Okay, so I had to analyze this very deeply. I mean, I had to look at it from an organizational perspective, interdepartmental perspective. I had to look at it from a technical perspective and multiple lenses to solve it. And then it got to a point where I realized that the problem wasn't even defined properly. So they had a problem defined, but it wasn't defined properly. I had to redefine the problem because they had a problem, They found a problem, but they defined it incorrectly. So keep that in mind. So this makes problem solving the most important ability engineers will need for a future career. Wow. Why did they say that some specialization in cloud engineering is going to be important? Because they know that technology changes. And if you don't keep your pulse on, if you don't keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on, you're going to be left behind. Okay, so let's go over this. Fixing something that's broken, examining and addressing risk and safety, improving performance and efficiency. And it says here, complex problems will need complex solutions. Exactly. Like I was telling you in my own experience, I basically gathered information and looked at it from various different angles and realized that as I sought to solve this problem as it was defined, I couldn't solve it. So I redefined the problem. And then that's when I was able to solve it. Okay, so critical thinking. Critical thinking involves analyzing a concept or situation with the aim of reaching valid, sound, and objective conclusions. Strong critical thinking skills take practice. It's easy to make decisions uncritically based on one's own interests, biases, and emotions rather than the facts. Engineers are taught to be critical thinkers, not only to solve technical problems, but to ensure the ethical performance of their duties. The key components of critical thinking for engineers are two. Whoa, this is very interesting. I have a book called Communicate, Not Communicate, 8 Keys for Leaders and Professionals to Communicate Effectively. And in this book, I really go into why questions are important. I actually go into the structure of asking questions. I take you through scenarios wherein you see me engaging with other IT professionals and how the skill of asking questions was utilized to cause my projects to succeed. So they're telling you that this helps you really with critical thinking. So you have to be able to ask questions to gather relevant information. As I told you in the example above, when I was solving this problem, I had to gather information. In order to gather information, you're going to have a tool. The tool is questions. So you need to identify biases and minimize their influence, evaluate all available data relevant to the situation or problem, and you need to ask for feedback, collaborate with those involved with the situation, including people with different backgrounds, perspective, and knowledge specialties. This is essentially what I had to do when I was solving a problem for a big entertainment organization. I had to go in, I had to talk to their executives, I had to talk to their engineers, all these tiered level technology professionals and tiered level executives that I had to communicate with. And it does vary. And it takes a very well-rounded, refined person to be able to handle all these personalities and egos and intensities and political entanglements that you may be aware or unaware of when you're sitting in a room with people basically solving a problem where they want to give information, but some people don't want to give information without pleading the fifth because they kind of feel like, hey, I might incriminate myself. I might be the one that caused it. And they don't want to put their department out there. So just keep that in mind. Generate a variety of possible solutions to determine the optional or optimal implementation given the desired consequences. Okay. So it says this approach to interacting with a problem ensures that the engineer has all the information about a problem that they need in order to solve it. That's really important. In other words, you want to gather all the information that's needed so you can actually solve the problem correctly. In my experience, in terms of thinking creatively, a lot of engineers, what they like to do is they like to prove that they work hard, right? So I'm a hard worker. So they work all the time. What I did in terms of keeping my critical thinking skills sharp and my creative skills sharp is I would walk away from the problem and walk away from trying to solve it. Like you see this gentleman here just looking at all this complex information on a board. What I would do is I would take walks. I would take breaks. I would just walk out of the building and just walk around the corner and just take a 15-minute walk, get 15 minutes to break. I would just take a walk. And when I came back, my mind and my body were refreshed and I was able to see the problem and think more deeply about the problem. I've solved a lot of problems doing that. Let's go forward. Okay. Think outside the box before you know what the box is. How do you solve a problem you've never seen before? The future will be full of these problems. Each new change and new technology will create situations no one has ever anticipated. Critical thinking will be what enables engineers to learn about and understand these problems so they can apply their renowned problem-solving skills. In other words, they are saying this, that there's principles that you need as an IT professional. That if you have these principles, they will guide you into any realm of technology and you will become valuable. Okay. I've learned critical thinking skills, problem solving skills, and I've used these skills even with technology that I was unaware of. I've solved problems with technology that I did not even understand. Why? because I simply am a good problem solver. And that helps you whether I'm an investor, whether I'm a business owner. It helps me whether I'm dealing with managing 3 children. It just solving problems. It's an interchangeable skill. I mean, it just helps you no matter where you're going. And the same thing works in the IT industry. That as technology changes, if you're able to solve the problems from whatever technology that is, then you will be valuable. Okay. Let's just skip that paragraph right there. It says, and then go to, in the future, workplaces are expected to be more collaborative. In other words, I'm going to go into, I've studied innovation. So when you get into innovation, just like problem solving, everything in this new world of technology as we're moving towards, you're not going to have this one superstar who's able to figure it all out. Okay. Technology is just way too complex. There's too many complexities in this world for one person to be able to figure out, how to make a new light bulb. Okay. And I'm using a light bulb as an example because of, during the time of Edison, there were a lot of untapped knowledge areas and a lot of untapped areas of innovation. But now it's like there's so much. I mean, I'm not saying that we know everything, right? I'm just saying that knowledge is so complex that you need other knowledge professionals in the same room, and you have to collaborate so that you share information so that you be able to see things differently instantaneously. And then that will charge the group to basically take a little bit of information here, a little bit of information there, put it all together, and just see things as a group in a different way. Diverse teams will collaborate to tackle all aspects of an entire problem, with each of them bringing their own set of skills to the table. Engineers will need to be able to think critically when working in this kind of team in order to take in all team members' contributions and analyze them to develop the best solution. As an employer, critical thinking is the number one skill I want in a job candidate. Okay, so let's move to creativity. I talked about creativity. I told you how I used to take walks. The interesting thing about it is this: these people that I work with, and some of the people, they might even watch my videos, but just straight up, look, in order for me to be creative, I can't be sitting in a cubicle. Like I had to get out, walk around, I don't know, go drink some water, just kind of stretch. And I would go outside and just take walks and just think about the problem in a very different way. Look at the, the beautiful blue sky. Look at the plants around me. Look at the architecture of the buildings. And then somehow something would trigger in me and I would be able to see the problem more creatively, like this creative juices would flow inside of me. Whatever that is for you, use it, because whatever you can tap into to get to that point of creativity where you're solving problems without being rigid. The rigidity is not going to help you in terms of solving problems. Okay. You need creativity. So since their work often revolves around numbers and facts, engineers are often mistaken to be lacking creativity. Okay. However, this couldn't be further from the truth. If you look at Steve Jobs, and I read a book called Creativity Inc. Okay. This is the gentleman who created, Pixel. Okay. And Steve Jobs, I guess, was a capital investor for Pixel. And I think that's the name of it. If it's not, please somebody correct me below in this video or wherever you are, correct me. But basically, in this book, it basically highlights this gentleman who wanted to do what Disney did. He wanted to take like Disney created, his cartoons and animation, right? And this guy wanted to create animation using the digital platform. And so in order for him to take this, basically scientific or technological method and be creative with it, he had to be flexible in thought. And creativity is essentially being flexible in your thought. So creativity is the ability to make, invent, or produce something new rather than imitating something that already exists. Yes, oftentimes engineers are building off something else, but the creative label still applies as they look for new methods and processes to solve problems cheaper, faster, and better. Engineers are exceptionally creative, and this creativity is the reason engineers dream up innovations and solutions to all kinds of problems. They are the ones that ask, what if, and truly come up with something that has never been seen before. Most people think of engineers as being analytical and being very systematic and sequential in their thinking. But what you need to understand is the top level engineers at the highest level, we are flexible. In other words, it's like I put it like this. Look, when you go to a kindergarten class and you see all them writing with crayons on the board, that's a high level engineering because it gets so complex that you literally go back to kindergarten. It's like okay, just kindergarten is the most simplistic. You're coloring with crayons, and then you go to the highest level of complexity, and we're literally coloring with crayons. I mean, you're using whatever whiteboard markers, but it's crayons. It's the adult version of crayons. Yeah, so like it's going to make you feel better, but you're coloring and you're making shapes and analyzing flows of data. But I'm not saying that we don't think as deeply as kindergartners, but I'm just saying that it gets to a point where it gets so complex you have to draw pictures. Okay. Employers value creativity because creative people are the flexible thinkers who can not only find new solutions for new problems, but new ways to motivate, new opportunities for business operations and relationships, anticipate what customers will want to know before the question is asked, and will be willing to pursue independent or additional education or training. In other words, these are people who take initiative, but also they think outside the box. They're not structured. There's two types of, there's well, let me put it this way. There's data and there's information. Okay, so data is basically a bunch of characters. Information is essentially data that has meaningful data, meaning that engineers who think creatively, they are basically working with information they've collected and made meaning out of something that is unstructured. Okay. And it's like creating something from nothing. It's basically when you think of creativity, you think of engineers. I want you to think of an entrepreneur, and that's the best way to describe it. An engineer who thinks creatively is creating something that did not exist. Okay. And so when you're solving problems and creatively, you need to think of things that didn't exist before, especially when you're doing new cutting edge technology. So it's a given that most successful engineers are also the most creative. And while having a solid grasp on your core technical skills is, of course, necessary, let's go over that again. Now, remember I told you in the beginning about the fast track to IT, and I said about specializing versus understanding the industry, how it operates, things, and being fluid and moving. Listen to this. When they say core technical skills, they're talking about your specialization. It gets to a point, I give the example of this. If you're a professional singer, they expect you to get on the stage and sing. But it's up to you to build out the skill set so that when you're working on a contract or you're dealing with, let's say, other professionals in the studio, that's up to you to figure out how to do all that. But if you don't do all that, guess what? There's people in the studio you're going to have conflict with. There's expectations for you in the studio that you may not understand. And there's music executives you want to understand. There's people who are basically creating marketing for you, and you need to work with those people. You need to work with people who are scheduling for you to basically go to all these different venues. So someone has to do the logistics. You need to coordinate with them. This is, I don't know much about the music industry, but I'm just looking at it from the outside. But I'm just saying that there's more to the music industry than singing or dancing. There's more to it. And the same with the IT industry. Just because you specialize in Cisco, just because you specialize in cybersecurity, just because you specialize in a coding language, all that's great. That's all these people are saying. At the highest level, man, we think that's great. But at the highest level, that's expected. High level technical skills at the highest level is like water. Like we see that. You need that. Like we know that. So it's automatic. Nobody's going to ask you, do you drink water? Okay. So having sharp technical skills at the highest level is like automatic. No one even asks you about that. It's about now, can you take all that high level knowledge you have and solve this complex problem that involves this body of knowledge, that body of knowledge, and this body of knowledge? Can you get in a room with all these different professionals who everybody thinks the problem isn't theirs and the problem is yours? This is the problem point. It's caused from your servers, and the server engineer says, no, it's not me. It's the network. And the network says, no, it's the coders. And the coders say, no, I wrote that code. I tested all the bugs. All this stuff is going on. Right. So you have to understand where I'm coming from and get my perspective. If you want to think like a master, you have to think outside of what is obvious. Okay. So It is creativity that enables engineers to apply all this knowledge in new and exciting ways. Okay. Let's just go forward here. Adapting and innovating in creative new ways. So, what will make creativity such a valuable skill for engineering jobs? With all the changes to technology, society, and individuals that we can already see coming, as well as those we haven't yet anticipated, creativity will be the key, as engineers will have to not only respond to the existing problems, but also think outside the box and identify new problems before they arise. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go into adapting and innovating in creative new ways. They're basically saying this. If you think technology is moving fast now, and if you think technology is complex now, they're saying that technology is going to be so complex and move so fast that it's not special. You're not going to have time to specialize. You're just going to simply have to have core skills to be able to solve problems. In other words, I'm going to give you a picture. Let's use an example from the olden days. Okay, okay. Now, the olden days, the railroad. Let's say the train is moving. They're saying the train is going to be moving so fast and it's not going to stop. And the people who work who operate the train, they're going to actually have to fix the problems while the train's moving at lightning speed. And that's what's essentially is going to happen in the future. You're not you see me not focusing on specialization. Now, eventually I'm going to put some IT courses in the JumpStart IT Academy. But I'm trying to tell you that technology in the future is going to move so fast that you just need to understand how the industry works so that you can adapt to it and adjust to it. That's why, okay? I'm trying to show you the future, okay? So you could be in the future. You don't want to be outside the future in the past, okay? Not in the present. You don't want to be in the past and the present while the future is happening, okay? So people management and emotional intelligence. This goes into human nature, okay? I say this very often, and I'll say it again. Rockefeller, and this is attributed to Rockefeller. He basically said that he would give up half of his wealth to someone who would teach him how to better deal with people. Why would Rockefeller want to give up half of his wealth to someone who can better teach him how to deal with people? Because just like I mentioned to on so many different platforms, that technology isn't just technology. The markets aren't just the markets. You're dealing with people, okay? And the critical skills of problem solving, critical thinking, being creative, understanding people and human nature, guess what? That is what's going to make you successful in the future. That's what's going to make you successful in the future. If you see me pushing these skills that look like they're not focusing so much on technology, is because technology is going to move so fast in the future that you're simply just going to need to be able to have basically intelligent principles. Okay. Because at this time, your specialization is great, but you're not going to have time to specialize, because once you specialize, and I don't mean there's not going to be any specialization. I'm just being general. But once you specialize, I'm saying once you specialize in the future, the technology is going to move so fast that you're outdated already. Like if you think technology shifts every 6 months, I think technology will shift every 2 months in the future. Okay, so let's keep going. So human touch is required. That goes into basically understanding that it's about human nature. It's not just about technology. So let's go here. Polish up on your future skills. Now let's just go through this real quick. Let's assume you're not retiring tomorrow. That being the case, you'll want to make sure you're as employable as possible for the new economy. That's essentially what the Fast Track to IT is all about. So it's about making sure you have the skills so that you can advance today and in the future. It's about learning how to fish. Okay, it's not about eating fish. You can see in this article that, in the future, you're not going to have time to sit down and prepare yourself a fish. You're just going to need to know how to fish anywhere you go. Okay, and that's just the way it's going to work. Because once you specialize, guess what? That is okay. So you've eaten that fish. Now what are you going to do tomorrow? Because technology has shifted and changed. How are you going to get a new fish tomorrow? You just need to have the skills so that you make yourself useful in this industry. Okay, so understand the industry, understand the industry, understand the industry. Know how it works. Understand the industry is not technology, servers, and bits and bytes, megabits and gigabytes and terabytes. It's people. Okay, you see, I don't use all this high level technology language and should I deliver a technology course, I will, of course, because I have to stay within the context of the language of that topic and subject matter. But when I'm talking about technology in terms of launching someone into the industry to thrive, I don't need to use a lot of technology language because there's universal principles that you need so that you can be launched and have longevity. So it says here, the key will be ensuring you have the right skills that will be in high demand over the next 10 to 20 years. Most of these soft skills, which may not be the first thing that comes to mind in connection with engineering, however, engineers have a highly developed roster of these soft skills. And more importantly, these skills will be what sets you apart from the crowd and what will be you and will be what you can offer that a robot, for example, cannot. So if you know already if you already have these skills, polish them up. If you don't think you're quite up to par, consider getting ahead of the pack by finding opportunities through your current job or through a professional development program to get these skills into top shape. Now, I hope this answers people's questions as far as Fast Track to IT. It's what is it teaching you? How the industry works, it's teaching you to evaluate all the opportunities in the industry. It's teaching you certifications you can do. It's teaching you certain businesses. It's teaching you how to learn any technology. It's teaching you how to create a curriculum. It's teaching you how to go through technical interviews. It's teaching you the common entry barriers in technology. Yeah, it is. It's teaching you how to be an IT professional and how to deal with the people in the IT profession. Because guess what? And I go through the top skills, and guess what? All these skills that they mentioned in this article, these 4 skills, they're one of many. I give about, 15 or 20 in my course, but I just want you to understand why I'm teaching you and pushing you towards soft skills, because these are the people who are going to succeed in the future. The future belongs to those who actually understand it's about understanding human nature and understanding how to adapt and deal with the problems of the future. Okay? That's why I told you, be a problem solver. Okay? Now, I'm going to conclude this video. This is Mr. C. Johnson 007. Check me out on Instagram. Check out YouTube. Check out JumpStart IT Academy. You can also check out JumpStart IT Academy on Instagram and jumpstarti.t.academy on Facebook. And guess what? Like, share, subscribe. Also remember, JumpStart IT Academy. Get skilled in IT over a college degree. Go to fasttracktoit.com and you can sign up for a free 15-minute consultation. It's a limited time only. And perhaps we can chat, see if you're a good fit for this opportunity. Talk to you later, the next video.